I always thought I knew who I was. I grew up in a home full of love and security, or so I thought. My family was everything to me, and I believed we had the perfect life. But what if everything I knew was a lie? What if the people I trusted most were the ones who had been hiding the truth from me all along? The truth about my past, about my birth, and about the man I called my father. It wasn't until one phone call, one conversation, that I uncovered the darkest secret of all, and what I learned changed everything. My life, my identity, my family, they weren't what I thought they were. I was left in the dark for years, but now I know the truth. And what I'm about to share with you will leave you questioning everything you think you know about love, betrayal, and the family you thought you could trust. This is my story, a story of love, loss, and a betrayal so deep it will leave you speechless. Stay with me, you're not going to want to miss this. Before we begin, if you're new or yet to subscribe to this channel, kindly do so now, so you won't miss out on heart-touching stories that are shared on this channel. Hi, my name is Ella. It started with a fight, one of those small petty arguments that seemed so insignificant at the time. We had been at the dinner table, and I had said something that had set my father off. I couldn't even remember what it was now. It didn't matter. The argument escalated quickly. Words thrown like daggers, sharp and painful. And then it happened. I don't know how or when it started, but suddenly I was in his arms, my body pressed against his. He was holding me too tightly, his hands lingering where they shouldn't have. At first it felt like comfort, like he was trying to protect me, but then I realized something was wrong. I tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. I didn't know what to do. I was paralyzed by confusion, by the sharp sting of something I couldn't identify. His touch, once gentle and loving, now felt like an invasion. My father, the man I had trusted, was making me feel something that wasn't love, something darker, more twisted, and I was too weak to stop it. When he kissed me, I froze. It wasn't a kiss of affection, of a father's love. It was something else. I tried to pull away, to scream, but the words wouldn't come. I was terrified. I wanted to run, to escape, but I was trapped in my own mind, paralyzed by confusion, by shame, by fear. When it was over, I pretended it hadn't happened. I convinced myself that it was just a mistake, that it had been an accident, that I had somehow misinterpreted what had occurred. But deep down, I knew it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning of something much worse. The worst part was that he didn't stop. Every time we were alone, there was a touch that lingered too long, an embrace that was too tight, a kiss that lasted too long. Each time, I told myself that it was just him being overly affectionate, just him trying to show me that he loved me. But the truth was that he was taking something from me, something I could never get back, and I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. I had tried to push him away, but the more I did, the more he became obsessed. He wanted to control me, to make me his, in a way that went far beyond fatherly love. I was his daughter, his possession, and he wasn't going to let me go. I didn't know how to escape. I didn't know how to make it stop. Every time I tried to tell my mother, I was met with silence, with her refusal to see the truth. She didn't want to believe that her perfect husband, the man she had trusted, could ever do something like that. She didn't want to believe that the man who had raised her children was capable of something so vile. And so I kept it all inside, kept it hidden, buried in the deepest part of me. But I could feel it eating away at me, slowly, like a cancer. The shame, the guilt, the anger, It was suffocating. And then, one night, I found out that I was pregnant. I didn't know how it happened. I couldn't remember the exact moment, but I knew that my father had done this to me. I knew that I was carrying his child, the child of the man who had raised me, the man who had stolen my innocence, the man who had crossed every boundary, every line I had ever known. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My world was collapsing around me, and I couldn't stop it. How could I bring this child into the world? How could I carry a child that was the product of my own father's twisted desires? I was terrified. I didn't know what to do, who to turn to. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I had become something that was too broken, too tainted to be fixed. But the truth was undeniable. The child I was carrying was my father's, and there was no escaping it. The pregnancy test was the final nail in the coffin. It had been a week since I'd missed my period, a week since I had felt that sharp, twisting anxiety, knotting up in my stomach every time I thought about the possibility. But when the test showed the unmistakable 2 lines, I didn't feel relief, nor did I feel fear. I felt nothing. Numbness. Complete, suffocating numbness. I hadn't dared tell anyone, not even Amber, my sister. What was I supposed to say? I'm pregnant with my father's child? How do you even begin to utter those words? I couldn't even say it to myself. It was too grotesque, too incomprehensible, so I kept it hidden. I kept it locked inside, in the pit of my stomach, where everything else was buried. The nausea I felt every morning wasn't just from the pregnancy. It was from the reality that I was carrying a child that I shouldn't have been carrying, a child conceived in a moment of pure violation. How could I look at myself in the mirror, knowing what I had become? How could I face the world, knowing that my own flesh and blood, this tiny life growing inside me, was the product of a man who had stolen everything from me? It was hard to breathe. Every day was a struggle. I didn't know how to live anymore. My father's touch had scarred me, and now I carried the consequence of that touch. Every movement inside me felt like a reminder of what had happened. It was a cruel, unending loop, a cycle I couldn't escape. I had tried to bury the truth. I had tried to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, I could make this work. I could have this baby. I could raise it, love it, give it the life it deserved. And somehow, in the process, I could forget who the father was. But the more I thought about it, the more impossible it seemed. How could I look at this child and not see my father? How could I love this child and not hate myself for bringing him into the world? I stayed home for days, locked away in my apartment. The world outside had moved on, but I had stopped living. I couldn't leave. I couldn't face anyone. The shame was unbearable. It wasn't until one evening, after a week of barely eating or sleeping, that I found myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. I was holding my stomach, feeling the tiny life inside me shift. I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do with myself, much less this child. I could barely look at my reflection, but as I stared at the woman in the mirror, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. There was a flicker of determination behind the pain, a glimmer of strength buried beneath the shame. I could still see the woman I had been before. Everything had been destroyed. She was still there. She was broken, yes, but not gone. But the truth was that I had to make a choice that would define who I was going to be. I could end the pregnancy. I could run away from this nightmare, pretend it never happened, and reclaim my life, or I could keep the baby, carry it and face the world as a mother to the child of my abuser. I could pretend that everything was okay, pretend that I had control over my life, over my future. The decision felt like a no-win. Either way, I lost. But I knew there was no running from this, no escaping the consequences of what had happened. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I couldn't make this choice alone. I needed to confront my parents, to confront the man who had ruined my life, to finally hear the truth from him. the truth that had been hidden from me for years, the truth that had poisoned every part of my existence. So I called him. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Dialing his number felt like holding a razor to my skin, the sharp edge of regret and anger running deep into me. When he picked up the phone, I felt my pulse race. "Dad," I said, my voice trembling. "We need to talk. You need to tell me the whole truth. Everything." There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, as if he was stalling, trying to find the words that would make this easier, but I knew better. There were no words that could fix this. There was nothing that could make this right. "I already told you the truth, sweetheart," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "I did what I thought was best for you." "No," I said, my voice steady now. "No, you didn't. You don't get to decide what's best for me. Not anymore." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "You're going to be a grandfather, Dad, and I need to know. Do you even care? Do you even understand what you've done?" There was another pause, and then I heard him sigh deeply. "I never wanted this for you. I never wanted you to find out like this, but I did what I had to do. I thought I was protecting you. You were special to me, more than anyone could understand, but I was wrong." I could feel my heart racing. "You weren't protecting me. You were keeping me locked in a cage. You made me think I was safe, that I was loved, but you were just using me, controlling me. Sweetheart, I was just trying to keep you close. I thought." He trailed off, his words faltering. I felt the bile rise in my throat. "You thought? You thought?" I could feel the heat of my anger flood my chest. "You never once considered what I might want, what I might feel. You treated me like property." "I never meant to hurt you," he said, his voice strained. "I loved you. I thought I could love you the way a father loves a daughter. But it got tangled up. It went too far. I didn't know how to stop it." I closed my eyes, the tears that I had been holding back finally falling. "You can't love someone that way, Dad. You can't." The silence stretched on for what felt like eternity. The truth hung heavy between us, an unspoken thing that neither of us could escape. "Then what do you want from me, sweetie?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you need me to say?" The answer was simple. "Tell me it's over. Tell me you'll leave me alone. Tell me you'll never hurt me again." There was no response. I could hear him breathing, but there was nothing else. "I don't want to hear from you again," I said, my voice breaking. "I don't want anything from you." And with that, I hung up the phone. I was just sitting there, minding my own business, when the call came. I had just finished another grueling day at work, feeling like I was running on fumes. The sun had dipped behind the horizon, casting a golden hue over the street outside my apartment. It should have been peaceful, but my mind was always racing, filled with everything and nothing at once. The weight of my ordinary life, my family, my perfect home hung over me like a thick veil. I thought I had it all figured out, but that call shattered everything I thought I knew. I hadn't been expecting it. Who calls at this hour? Especially my mother. She never called me after hours, unless something was wrong. Even then, it was rare. I glanced at my phone screen. Her name flashed, and I felt a little knot tighten in my chest. Something in her tone was something urgent, something tense. I answered, trying to sound normal, trying to push away the gnawing sense of dread that clung to me like a shadow. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to make it sound casual. Her voice was tight. "We need to talk." My stomach flipped. A part of me knew this wasn't going to be some casual mother-daughter chat about the weather. My mind started racing, trying to figure out what this was about. Another family issue? Another something I'd forgotten to do? But no, this was different. "Sweetheart, I need you to listen to me carefully," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "There's something I've been keeping from you. It's about your birth." I froze. My birth? What was she talking about? My parents had always told me the truth, but this felt different. Her voice was shaking, as if she had rehearsed the words for years, and yet was terrified to speak them aloud. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, feeling the pit in my stomach deepen. "Who left me?" She didn't answer immediately. There was a long, uncomfortable pause, and I could almost hear her tears on the other side of the line. Finally, she spoke again, her words trembling. "We don't know. Your father found you on the side of a busy road. We couldn't just leave you there." My hands were shaking. My father, the man who had raised me, the man I had loved and trusted more than anyone else. He had found me. He had found me like an object, a child discarded by someone unknown. He had picked me up. He had brought me into his home. But as the silence stretched between us, I felt something shift, something darker, something colder, that gnawed at the back of my mind. I needed more. "Mom, tell me everything." Her voice was a whisper now. "I didn't want you to know like this. It wasn't supposed to come to this. But I need to tell you everything. You were left on the side of the road, abandoned by someone who I don't even know. We thought we could give you a better life. We didn't want you to grow up with that kind of pain, that kind of history." I couldn't breathe. "Who left me?" I whispered. "Who did this?" She didn't answer immediately. There was a long pause, and then she spoke again. "You were never meant to be part of our family. Not in the way you think. Your father, he paid someone. He paid to keep you. He made sure no one ever knew." I felt the blood drain from my face. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, and the world around me seemed to crack open. What was she saying? Paid for a child? My father, the man I loved, the man who had raised me, had bought me. The pieces began to click together, but they were not the pieces I wanted. The betrayal was too much to bear. I had always believed I was loved. I thought I had been saved, given a second chance. But no, I was a transaction, a payment. My entire existence, my childhood, my life. Was it all just part of a deal? A deal between two strangers, one who had abandoned me and one who had taken me as his own. My mind raced, and the tears came, unexpected. How could they have done this to me? My father, my dad, the man who had held me, raised me, taught me to ride a bike, who had kissed my scraped knees and told me everything would be okay, had paid for me. "Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking, "why didn't you tell me this before? Why now?" She hesitated. I could hear the guilt and the fear, raw and thick in her voice. "I couldn't. We thought it was the right thing. We wanted you to feel like you were ours, but now I realize we made a mistake. I wanted to protect you, but all we did was keep you in the dark." I couldn't process what she was saying. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, to demand that she take it back, but there was no taking it back. The truth was out. The world I had known, the family I had trusted, was not what I had thought. It was built on lies, on deceit, on betrayal. "Is there more?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Please tell me everything." Her voice broke. "There's so much more, but I'm not sure you're ready to hear it." I hung up the phone and sank to the floor. The walls felt like they were closing in around me. The life I had known, the family I had loved, was a lie. I had been stolen, raised in a world of secrets. I had never imagined that the truth could be so much worse than the lie. The days that followed my conversation with my mother were like a blur, as if I was floating through a nightmare that I could not wake up from. I felt paralyzed, unable to move forward, yet trapped in a past that I could no longer escape. Every day, I woke up with the same overwhelming feeling of betrayal, suffocating me from the inside. How could this happen? How could the people who were supposed to love me, who raised me, have hidden something so monstrous from me? And why had they never told me the truth? I spent most of those days in a haze, not sure how to move forward. I couldn't go back to my old life. And the new one, the one I had just begun to create in the face of this crushing reality, felt like it wasn't even mine. I kept thinking about the baby inside me, this child who would grow up with a truth so dark it could never be erased. A child that, despite everything, I had already come to love, even though the shame of it all twisted inside me like a knife. But there was more. There had to be more. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself staring at the small stack of papers on my desk. Among them, there was a single, yellowed photograph. It was an old picture, one that I hadn't seen before. I picked it up, my hands trembling. As I examined it, it was a picture of me as a baby, no older than a few months, bundled up in a white blanket. But that wasn't what shocked me. What took my breath away was the woman standing beside me in the photo. She was holding me, her face partially obscured, but there was something familiar about her, something haunting. I stared at the image for what felt like an eternity, the reality sinking in slowly, painfully. Who was she? I flipped the photo over, hoping for an answer. There, written in faded ink, were two words that froze my blood: Baby Ella and Clara. I didn't know who Clara was. I had never heard that name before. I looked more closely at the photograph. Then I remembered her face. Clara, my mother's cousin. I have only seen her twice. The last thing I had about her was her admission to a popular local hospital. My heart began to race, and my fingers shook as I held the photograph in my hand. Why had my parents kept this from me? Why had they hidden this woman from me? If this was the person who had held me as a baby, who had been there for me in my earliest moments, why was she not part of my life now? I had so many questions, but only one person could answer them. It was time to face my past head-on. I left the house the next morning, my hands shaking as I grabbed my car keys. My first stop was the local hospital. I had a feeling deep in my gut that I had to find Clara, the woman in the photo, and I couldn't explain why. I had no idea what she would say, but something in the back of my mind told me that she was the key to everything. The hospital was quiet, too quiet. As I stepped inside, I approached the front desk, my heart pounding in my chest. The nurse behind the counter gave me a polite smile, but her eyes held an underlying sadness I couldn't place. "How can I help you?" she asked. "I'm looking for Clara Collins," I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. "She's a patient here." The nurse's expression faltered for a moment, but then she nodded. "I believe she's in room 2. It's a hospice room. I'm afraid she's very ill." I felt my stomach drop. I had never felt so disconnected from my own life. The woman who could have had the answers to all my questions was dying, and I had no time to waste. I rushed to room 217, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. When I reached the door, I hesitated for just a moment, gathering my thoughts. What would I even say to her? How could I explain the flood of emotions that had consumed me in the last few days? I pushed the door open. Inside, Clara lay in a hospital bed, her frail body barely visible beneath the thin hospital sheets. She was pale, her hair thin and white, her face a map of a lifetime of pain. But her eyes were still sharp, still bright, and when they locked onto mine, I felt an unexpected surge of recognition. She knew me. "Come closer," she whispered, her voice raspy but strong. "I know who you are." I took a cautious step toward her, my heart racing. "You know me?" "Of course," she said softly. "I knew you the second I saw you. You look just like your mother." Tears welled in my eyes, though I couldn't explain why. A strange comfort filled me, but it was mixed with a deep sadness. "I need to know the truth," I said, my voice shaking. "I need to know what happened. Who am I, really?" Clara studied me for a long moment, before nodding slowly. I've been waiting for you to come. You deserve to know the truth. But it's not an easy story to hear. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. I need to hear it. I need to know everything. Her eyes softened, and she motioned for me to sit beside her. Your real mother was a young woman. Just a girl, really. She was only 15 when she had you. She didn't know what to do. She was terrified, alone. She left you in a busy road one night, hoping someone would find you and give you a chance at life. But my father, she raised her hand to stop me. He wasn't your father at all. He was the man who took you, and he was a monster. The words hit me like a blow to the chest. What do you mean? Clara's eyes filled with sorrow. He wasn't looking for a child to raise. He was looking for someone to control. And when he found you, he took you. He paid your mother to keep you, to disappear, to leave you in his hand. He didn't want to love you. He wanted to possess you. I felt the floor drop out from beneath me. No, I whispered, my voice thick with disbelief. No, this can't be true. He loved me. He raised me. He protected me. She shook her head slowly. He raised you, yes, but not as a daughter, as his possession. He wanted someone who would never question him, someone he could mold into what he needed. And he found you. That's why he kept you close. He wanted you to be his. And when you got older, it wasn't love that drove him. It was something dark. I stumbled back, my head spinning. It was too much. Everything I had known, everything I had believed, was a lie. My life had been built on deception, on manipulation. My father, my real father, was nothing but a monster who had stolen me from the very start. Your mother, Clara continued softly, was forced to stay silent. She didn't want you to know the truth, but she couldn't save you. She couldn't stop him. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to do with this information. How could I face anyone again? How could I look at my family, my father, and not see the monster Clara had just described? My world, the world I had trusted, had been destroyed in a single moment. I left Clara's room feeling more lost than I had ever felt. The truth had shattered me, but there was still something gnawing at the back of my mind. I spent days, maybe weeks, in a haze. The revelations about my father, the truth Clara had shared with me, had ripped through me like a storm. But even after the storm had passed, the wreckage remained. I couldn't even begin to piece it all together. I was broken, utterly, completely broken, and I had no idea how to begin to rebuild. What had I done wrong? How had I been so blind? My entire life, everything I had ever known, had been an illusion. The man I had called father had raised me. Yes, but not out of love. He had raised me out of a twisted need for control, for possession, and now I was carrying the child of that monster. I had always believed that family was the one thing that could never be torn apart, but now, I wasn't sure there was any part of me left that could be saved. The news about the baby hit me harder with each passing day. I couldn't escape it. The reality of carrying my father's child, my own child, was too much to bear. My heart ached at the thought of bringing him into a world where his very existence was born out of manipulation, deception, and pain. But even as the grief threatened to consume me, something else grew inside me, a quiet, steady resolve. I had to keep going. For him, there was one more thing I had to do. I had to confront Amber. I hadn't spoken to her since the moment I discovered everything. She had been there, complicit in the lies, the silence. I had always been the quiet one, the one who had trusted her family, without question, without hesitation. Amber had been the golden child, the one who never faltered. But now, I knew, she had known about my past long before I ever did, and she had let me walk around, believing everything was normal, while hiding the truth from me. I couldn't keep running from the truth anymore. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was okay. My father had lied to me. My mother had kept secrets from me. And Amber had betrayed me. It was time for me to face them all, to find out where the line had been crossed, and whether there was any part of my family that I could ever trust again. I called Amber. The phone rang once, twice before she answered. Hello? Her voice was softer than usual, hesitant. She knew. She had to know what was coming. "Amber," I said, my voice steady but filled with the weight of everything I had learned. "We need to talk." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could feel the hesitation in her. She was scared. She should be. "I don't know what to say," she said, her voice low. "Then let me say it for you," I snapped. You knew everything, and you let me live a lie. You let me believe that I was loved, that I was part of a family, and now, everything is broken. I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't know what to do. I thought if I told you it would ruin everything." "Ruin everything," I echoed, my anger rising. "You think this didn't ruin everything? You think I'm not ruined? I trusted you, Amber. I thought you were the one person who would always have my back, but you kept me in the dark. You kept me blind to everything." "I'm sorry," she said, her voice small, filled with shame. "I was scared. Okay, I didn't know how to fix it. I thought maybe if I just kept quiet, we could go on pretending that everything was normal." "Pretending?" I said, the word bitter in my mouth. "This was never normal. I was never normal." She was silent, and I could feel the weight of her guilt hanging heavy between us. I didn't know what to say to her anymore. What could I say? She had kept the truth from me. For years, she had allowed me to live in this false, perfect world. She was as complicit in this betrayal as anyone. "I need you to understand something, Amber," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can forgive any of you. My whole life has been a lie, and I have to figure out how to live with that." "I know," she said quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I've always loved you. I never wanted to hurt you." I felt a tear slip down my cheek. "But you did," I whispered. "You hurt me, and now I don't know who I am anymore." Later that evening, I found myself at the hospital again. This time, I wasn't going to see Clara. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to plead for some semblance of redemption. I was there to see my father. He had been calling me for days, leaving message after message on my voicemail. I had ignored him, avoiding his calls, avoiding everything about him. But tonight, something inside me shifted. I could no longer hide from the reality of what he had done. I had to face him. The waiting room was eerily quiet when I walked in. It smelled like antiseptic and fear. His room was at the end of the hallway, behind a closed door. I knocked softly before entering. He was sitting in a chair by the window, looking out at the city. He didn't turn when I entered, but I could hear his breath catch when he saw me. "Dad," I said, my voice steady, but the tremor in it betrayed my calm. "I'm here." He didn't say anything at first. He just stared at me, with eyes filled with regret. He looked older, smaller somehow, like the weight of the lies he had lived under was crushing him. But I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for him. "Not anymore. I never meant to hurt you," he said, quietly. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I could give you a better life. But I didn't know. I didn't know how much I would hurt you in the process." I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. "You didn't just hurt me," I said, my voice fierce. "You destroyed me. You took everything from me. My childhood, my innocence, you took everything. And you made me believe I was safe. You made me believe I was loved." His eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't let myself feel anything for him anymore. He had taken everything from me, and I couldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing my hurt. "I never wanted you to feel like this," he whispered, "but I can't change what I've done." "No," I said, my voice sharp. "You can't, but I can. I'm done with this. I'm done with you. I'm done with the lies. You don't get to control me anymore." I turned and walked out, my heart heavy, but resolute. I had no more tears to cry. I had no more regrets. I was done with the past, done with the lies, done with the people who had betrayed me. I was reborn in that moment, forged in the flames of my own destruction. The truth had broken me, but it had also made me stronger. I was no longer the girl who had been controlled, manipulated, and abused. I was someone else now, someone who could survive, who could move forward, no matter what, and I would, for my son, for myself, for the future. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far, I want you to know something. You are not alone. If you've ever felt betrayed, abandoned, or lost, you're not alone. I've been there. I've been through the darkness, through the pain, and I've come out on the other side, stronger, and so can you. Don't let the past define you. Don't let the hurt keep you chained to a life you didn't choose. There's always a way forward. It's never easy, but it's always possible. To anyone who's ever felt like they were lost in the shadows, remember this: the light is within you. You don't have to stay in the dark. You can take control of your story. You can rebuild, and no matter what's been taken from you, no matter what's been broken, you can still find your strength. So take that step, take that leap for yourself, for your future, for your family. This is your story, your fight, and no matter what, you have the power to choose your path. No one else gets to decide that for you. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. And remember, you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to do with your story.
If you want more true stories that crack open silence and remind us of who we really are, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Remember, your voice matters, even if no one applauds when you use it.